There are 5 basic steps for creating a linked report. First, you need to create a report with or without a parameter. Then you deploy the report to the server. Okay, so you have to start with a report that is deployed to the server. Next, you use Report Manager to create a folder for each linked report. Okay, that's an optional. You can have the multiple linked reports in a single folder. In fact, it can be in the same folder with the original report, although that's going to be fairly unusual. Next, you use Report Manager to create the linked reports, locating each linked report in the appropriate folder if you're putting them in separate folders. And then you just change the default values for parameters and other report properties, and that customizes how that linked report displays that original source report. You really can get pretty flexible with doing this, particularly if you build the report originally with creating a linked report in mind. All right, so the power of linked reports really is best illustrated with an example. So let's do that. In order to demonstrate linked reports, I'm going to work with the reseller cumulative sales report. So I'll go in here and I'll first show you why. So when I run the report, take a few seconds to load. Okay, there's a report. It has a document map, is a grouped report based on different geographic areas, and displays information about different business types and products and so forth. But more importantly for our purposes here is that it has 3 different parameters. One is for the sales territory group, which is essentially a region. The other is for year, so the range of data within the database that supports this report is from 2005 through 2010. And then you can also select a report within each of those years. So we want to work with the sales territory group, or again, the region. So there's Europe. NA is essentially not applicable, so there's really 3 regions: Europe, North America, and Pacific. And so what we want to do is we want to create linked reports, which are, again, virtual reports, that when you click the link, will display the report for just Europe, or just North America, or just the Pacific. So we're going to have to create 3 different linked reports. Okay, so let's go back to sample reports, and I'm going to put this into details view. A little bit easier to work with, create new folders and so forth. So first I'm going to create the linked report for Europe. I want to create a separate folder for it and for each of the other 2. So in this case, this is going to be the Europe sales reports, so I'll call this Europe. And I can add a description if I want to. Click on OK, and now we have that new folder. I'll go ahead and create all the folders that I want. So I need one for North America, and for the Pacific. Okay, so we have all 3 of those folders. They're contained within sample reports. I can go down into it and see that I have this breadcrumb from home to sample reports, and I'm in the Europe folder. Okay, so go back to sample reports. Next thing I need to do is create the linked report. So I'll scroll down here and come to the reseller cumulative sales. I don't want to click on it because that'll just run the report. Instead, I'll click on this down button here and click on Create Linked Report. And that opens up this linked report page. So first thing I need to do is give it a name. So I'm going to call this Reseller Sales Europe. The name here doesn't have to have any resemblance to the original report's name. I just wanted to link it a little bit, so I'm taking Reseller Cumulative Sales and calling it Reseller Sales Europe. And I can add a description if I want to. I'll skip that step here. Next thing I need to do is change the location. I don't have to do this. I could put it in sample reports. The linked report could be in the same folder as the original report, but in this case I want to put it in Europe. And as you can see, this tree view of the organizational structure of this report server has those 3 new folders that are contained within this sample reports folder. So I'll select Europe, Notice that it changes the box up there. I could have also just typed it in there. And click on OK. And now the location is /samplereports/Europe. Okay, so that's saved the location. I'll click on OK. And that creates the linked report and immediately executes it. Now, I haven't yet changed the report to change the parameter values. So this is just the original view of that report. And as you can see, I'm no longer running the reseller cumulative sales report that's in sample reports, but I'm in the Europe folder and running the reseller sales Europe report. So just be very clear on that. Okay, so I want to go to the Europe folder because I need to modify this linked report. So notice again, this is the linked report. It's not the original report. It's a different thing. So I'll go to the pop-up menu and I want to select Manage. And that essentially opens up the properties page for that linked report. You can do the same thing for a regular report and change the properties of that report. So I want to change the parameters. So I'll go to the parameters page here. And here you can see a list of all of the parameters that are required for this report. The sales territory group, the year and quarter. You can also get information about the data type. They're all strings. Whether or not it has a default value. Recall that when I first execute the reseller cumulative sales report, the original report, all of the parameters have default values, and it's all of the multiple selections selected. All right, the default value is query-based. That's the way the report was designed. I can hide each of the parameters from that list of parameters at the top of the report if I wanted to, and I can prompt the user. And I can also change the display text. So just even before we set parameter values, you can see that you can customize how the report appears for this linked report. It's not changing the original report, just changing this linked report when the user accesses a report using this linked report. Okay, now as far as setting the parameter value, here's where things get a little bit weird and the user interface leaves something to be desired. Okay, so the parameter that we need to modify here is the sales territory group. Notice that, like all the parameters in this report, isn't always necessarily the case. You can specify specific values for default values, but it's query-based. It's going out to, it's actually executing a query to the underlying data store in order to access the default value. So the first thing I need to do is remove that has default setting for that parameter. And then I need to click the Apply button. Strangely enough, I then need to click the Apply button again. And now what that does is this makes this a sort of combined, well, it's not really a drop-down list. It's sort of like an expandable text box list. It's initially disabled. I can click on it, it doesn't do anything. I need to reselect the has default, and that enables this. So you start to see that if you have a lot of parameters, you're doing a lot of clicking. All right, so I'll select that. Just clicking on it again expands it. And I want to enter the value Europe. Okay, because that's going to be the default value. Now, the other thing that I can do, which is not required, is that I can hide this parameter. What this is going to do is it's going to hide the parameter setting from the linked report so that the user can't change this value. So what that does is it disables the prompt user and disables the display text. So now the top of the report is only going to display two parameters, which I'm perfectly fine with letting the user select different values for, the year and the quarter. Okay, I'm once again going to click Apply because that actually applies the changes to the linked report. And because I'm paranoid, because sometimes you have to click Apply more than once anyway, I'm going to click Apply again just to make absolute sure it's taken. All right, now I'm going to go back to the Europe breadcrumb here, and I'll click Reseller Sales Europe. Notice right off the bat, we no longer have the sales territory group parameter setting, so the user can't change that, but can still change the year, can still change the quarter, and we have a shorter report. I didn't look at the number of pages, but if I go to the end, it's 75 pages, far fewer pages than previously, but all I get is Europe. So as I go from page to page, everything is Europe. If I jump ahead to page 50, it's still Europe. If I jump ahead to page 73, it's still Europe, because I've now set that parameter to Europe and the user can't change that value. If they want to see the full data, then they need to go back and execute the reseller cumulative sales report, the actual report, not this virtual linked report. Okay, so that's created that report. Let's go back over to sample reports and quickly create the other two. So I'll come here, create a linked report. This one I'm going to call Reseller Sales North America. I'll skip the description. I'll change the location to North America, click on OK, and click on OK to create the report. Again, it executes the full reseller cumulative sales, and you can once again see that that parameter is available and visible. So now I'll go to North America directly here and go into the Manage window. Go to Parameters, deselect the Has Default, click Apply once, click Apply twice, enabled it again, because it is in fact going to have a default. And this time I'm going to set it to North America. And I'll hide the parameter from the user. Click on Apply, click on Apply, go back to North America, and we should see just North America data. We don't see the sales territory group, and it's just North America. And this time the report is 71 pages. So apparently there's fewer products available in North America than in Europe. Then I'll do this one more time. Come back down here to Reseller Cumulative Sales, create the link report. Call this one Reseller Sales Pacific. Oops. Change the location to Pacific. OK. Click on OK to create the linked report and execute it. Go back here to Pacific. Manage the report. Parameters. Apply, apply. Re-enable it. And this time enter Pacific. Excuse me. And hide the parameter. Click on Apply twice just for safety. And once again, now we're getting the Pacific area. Far fewer products. We only have 12 pages to the report this time. So that really shows. When I created the first linked report, I yacked a lot, so it took a fair amount of time to create it. But creating a new linked report is really easy. And then going in, as long as you know the quirks of Report Manager, it's pretty easy to change the parameter values. But keep in mind, too, that I could have changed other aspects of displaying the report as well, not just the parameter values.